Good morning, everybody. I'm Kristen Hagan, and I'm the Associate Director of the Center for Global Engagement. We appreciate your being with us this morning, whether it is morning for you or whether it's evening for you. For you and for us, this is an unusual fall semester. Those of you who were not in Tallahassee, we really look forward to getting to meet you in the future, and we're happy that you're here today. We hope you'll get a chance to meet some of your other international students and that you'll learn a little bit about Tallahassee, about the campus, and about the services we can provide for you to support you while you're at FSU. What we're going to do today is we've done introductions in our little rooms. We're going to go over our programming and our services. We're going to talk a little bit about living in Tallahassee, because when you're here, you're not just on the campus, you're also in our community. We're going to talk about cybersecurity, because that's become more and more important. Safety in the U.S., healthcare in the U.S., FSU academic resources and succeeding on campus. And of course, the F1 immigration advising, because when you do come to campus, you hold F1 visa status. And that means that in addition to all the rules that you have for the university, for your department, there's also another layer of rules about your F1 status that you encountered when you get visas and when you get on the plane, go through immigration and inspection in the airports. At the end, we'll break out into rooms again if you have any questions or want to talk some more with students. These are the advisors who are in the International Student and Scholar Services. So we're really the ones that handle the visa and immigration issues. Our staff does more than that, though. We have staff who, teaching faculty who give intercultural communication classes. We have programming that Laura will be telling you about, and lots of things going on in the office and the staff to support you. Now, you'll see quite a few flags here. You can look it over and see if you can see the your flag. If you're not seeing it and we missed you, please send, use the chat box to send a message to Laura so she can mention anybody we missed. What you can tell from seeing all the flags is that when you come to FSU, you meet not only students from the United States, but students from all over the world. That's what's incredibly enriching to us, and you contribute a lot to our campus and to the U.S. students who get to know you while they're studying here. So Laura, have you gotten a chat box from anybody? Did we miss any countries of people who are here today?
Not yet.
What did we miss, Laura?
Nothing as of now.
Oh, got it. Okay, thanks. Okay, I will turn this over to Laura then, and she'll tell you more about our center.
All right, everyone. Hi, officially, my name is Laura Dean. I am the Intercultural Programs Coordinator. And so what that means is basically I run all of the events, whether it's orientation or something fun like International Coffee Hour. I'll go through a few of the different events that you can engage with us virtually. We are doing all virtual programs for the fall. So even if you're not in the US, you will have plenty of opportunity to engage with us. So to start us off, I just want to go over a few of the programs that we have continuously running for the semester. Our first is English Conversation Club. So for those of you that would like a little bit more conversational support in your English language learning, we're going to offer a fun, casual environment where you can meet other international students that join, as well as connect with a domestic student facilitator. So those will run Tuesday, Thursdays, 9 to 10 a.m. for those of you that are not joining us in the same time zone. And then Monday through Friday, every day from 4 to 5 p.m. So if you're interested in signing up for that, we have a Zoom registration link that we can send your way. Just feel free to reach out to me. We also have Meditation Mondays for those of you that like to meditate in a collective group. We do an online meditation for 20 minutes and then some breakout room conversations. That's held every Monday, 12 to 1 p.m. So around your lunch hour, if again, you're in the same time zone. We have International Coffee Hours, which is our signature event. Happens every Friday, 5 to 6:30 p.m. And we do a cooking demonstration. We collaborate either with international students such as yourselves or other student organizations to feature a particular country and culture each week. So if that's something you're interested in joining or even participating in as a co-host, again, feel free to reach out and I can give you more information. In terms of all of the virtual services and opportunities to connect at CGE, I would recommend looking at the cge.fsu.edu/connect website. Has all on how to connect with us virtually. There are also two other opportunities for you undergrads that I want to highlight. The Global Citizenship Certificate is a certificate you can get through the Center for Global Engagement. It's transcript recognized, meaning when you graduate, it's on your official transcript. It is academically focused and basically helps you to become even more of a global citizen than you already are. So there are a few required classes that you would take as a part of it, all of which are housed in the Center for Global Engagement, and then a few other components to the certificate. But if you have the time and energy to do it, we highly recommend. It's very flexible to your interests and your field that you're pursuing in your bachelor's degree. There's also the Global Knoll program, which is going to be offered as a pairing with a domestic student. You will be given an opportunity to connect with them virtually. So I highly recommend, if you're interested in that, you can email me and I will get you the right information on the application process. But you should all be receiving the email today about it and how to sign up for it. So if you have any follow-up questions, though, always feel free to reach out to us. In terms of larger events skipped a little bit there. When we come back to campus, hopefully that'll be soon, but I just wanted to at least show you all of the variety of events that we offer in person or used to offer in person. We're hoping to do something similar for our virtual environment, but of course, it'll always look a little different. So if you have any ideas for any virtual events that you think would be fun, you'd like to engage in, please do let me know. And then in terms of the larger campus, I highly recommend you visit the welcomefsu.edu website. This is all of the events that are hosted virtually, and there are a few in person too for the fall semester. So if you visit this website, you'll see a full calendar of events, how to get involved, what's happening, what it looks like. So it's definitely important for you all to engage, and all of these are geared very much so towards new undergraduate students. So I highly recommend that you look into that. And then just in general, for all of the semester events that will be going on for the fall, you can visit our virtual FSU page, which will have, again, everything that's been converted to a virtual environment for you, which is everything. Every department, every event has been converted virtually. So definitely look at that as well to see the resources and how you can engage with different departments and areas and events. In terms of information, we highly recommend that you have the Global Connections newsletter on your mind. It is sent to you every week with the updated events, dates, anything that you need to know for that week summarized about the Center for Global Engagement. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We post everything that we do there as much as we do for the newsletter. So if that's how you prefer to engage with us, our handle is FSU CGE. And two, I would recommend just generally finding a way to, stay in touch with us, because we're always available, always here for you to answer any questions that you may have. All right, now I'm going to pass it on to Quinn, who will talk about living in Tallahassee.
So my name's Quinn O'Brien. Most of you have met me via email, but it's nice to meet you all virtually. I'm going to be talking about living in Tallahassee. I've been in Tallahassee for 12 years at this point. I came here to start my undergraduate degree. I finished undergrad, I finished my graduate program, and now I've been here ever since. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started. So give me just a second here. Okay, here we go. So just one thing that we kind of want to say at the beginning is that a lot of the activities that we show or talk about today are very likely to be impacted by COVID-19. So we're always going to encourage that you stick to the social distancing and other CDC approved protocols while you're on campus and while you're in Tallahassee in general. This is for public health and safety, both yours and others around you. You can be sure that FSU and Tallahassee will be issuing updates as these activities either resume or as operations kind of get back to normal. And just keep in mind that this presentation is mostly just to show you some of what Tallahassee has to offer. It is by no means an exhaustive list. So one of the first things you should do is download the FSU app, or the My FSU app. So it's on pretty much any platform that you can have. You can get this app. It's highly recommended that you do so both before you arrive and once you're here, just because it kind of shows everything. It has your academics, financials, everything about your student record. You can check homework, check emails, get updates from the university, FSU alerts, pretty much anything that you could need for the university, you can do through this app. So we do recommend that you download it. It also has the My Health app, or the Health Update app has been integrated into it for COVID-19. So it's a way for you to both track what's going on campus and provide updates to the university in case you do need to notify somebody of something. So again, it's one of those things where you should really just download it. It's obviously going to be free, and you can link it to everything so that you have everything on your phone and you don't have to worry about trying to log in mobilely. If you are on campus, Seminole Dining is going to be one of the things that you're going to want to look at first. You can go to the Seminole Dining website, which is down at the bottom here, and it'll talk about all the locations on campus where you can get something to eat. Typically, the most popular rooms like Fresh and Swanee, they're kind of like a buffet where you go and you get all you can eat and you sit with your friends and just kind of hang out. It's a good place to kill a couple of hours before class. That's not the case right now. There's going to be COVID-related protocols in place that for the most part prevent people from sitting down in the dining rooms, but there's still opportunities to use your meal plan, get food, or if you need to just go somewhere to get something to eat before class. So you can go to Seminole Dining, and as you can see here, there are quite a few places that you can choose from. You can look at the menus, you can look at the hours of operation. So when you get here and you're looking for food on campus, you're going to want to check out Seminole Dining. So transportation is a pretty big deal because not a lot of our students have cars when they first arrive. We have two pretty good bus systems. One is the university bus system and the other is Star Metro, which is the city bus system. Both of our bus, companies or both bus routes are excellent. If you live in an apartment complex rather, that's pretty much any of the major complexes on campus or any of the major complexes in Tallahassee, chances are there's a bus route that's right next to you. There's bus stops everywhere. The buses are very reliable. You can track them using the Translock Rider app. You can also plan out your trip. So if you know, for example, that you're going to be living in Seminole Grand, you can see where the bus stop is next to Seminole Grand. You can see what the bus route is, and you can plan it out for your class schedule. So I know most of you will be taking your classes online, but for those that do have a face-to-face class requirement, it's probably a pretty good idea for you to take a look at this and just kind of see what the bus routes are going to be so you can see how easy it'll be for you to get on campus. And then this is just something that we put up just to kind of let everybody know if you have a car, how it works. So if you do have a car, you're going to want to get your parking pass pretty much as soon as possible. It's part of your fees. If you just go to transportation.fsu and you go to the parking section, you can get your virtual parking pass. You just have to register your car. But if you are parking on campus, you're going to want to park in a white parking space. So you can see on the screen here that it's the student enforcement parking spots. You can park there during the day. The red spots are for employees, but you can park in the employee spots outside of the times listed. So during normal business hours, you can't park in a red space, but after like usually 4:30 or 5, the gates will open and you can park in an employee space. So that's just kind of something to keep in mind. And then motorcycle spots are designated in green. And if for some reason you need to do some sort of disabled permit parking, then you can go through the transportation website as well, and they can assist you. So if you haven't already done so, one of the things that you're going to need to do when you arrive in the US is open a bank account. We've included just examples of kind of the big 3 banks in Tallahassee. That's Bank of America, Wells Fargo, and SunTrust. SunTrust in particular has a relationship with Florida State University. For the most part, a lot of the new students that arrive on campus that don't already have bank accounts, they usually get set up with a SunTrust account because that's there's several locations on campus, and that's usually how things like financial aid are distributed. It's obviously up to you. You can pick whichever bank you wish, but just keep in mind that right now, due to COVID, it can be a little bit more complicated than usual to open a new account. you're going to need to probably go ahead and make an appointment ahead of time. Usually you can just walk in and kind of ask to make an account, but due to the current circumstances, you're probably going to want to reach out to the bank that you're interested in, schedule an appointment time, and then take everything with you that you need to open an account. And what we recommend you bring are 2 forms of ID, your immigration documents, and the initial amount that you wish to deposit. So definitely bring your passport, definitely bring your I-20, and just anything that you think might be relevant as a supporting document to open a bank account. Now, one thing for the most part that is awesome that you can still do right now is enjoy the outdoors. It's COVID friendly, it's social distancing friendly, and Tallahassee and the area around it has a lot of great things that you can do outdoors. We've included just some of them here, and I'll talk about some of my personal favorites in just a second. But you can do an outdoor pursuit trips through Campus Rec, which is the campus recreation department on campus. There's bike trails, hiking trails, everything that you can think of in Tallahassee in general. You can just go to trailhassee.com. You can get a free bike, or you can get a very reduced cost bike through the recycle program, so that you can just kind of have 1, a way to get to class, and 2, use some of the bike trails. And then there's places like the Res, where you can go and take a sailing course, play volleyball. There's really a lot of great things you can do. And I'm going to talk to you about some of my favorites, just because I've been here for a while, and my wife and I love pretty much everything involving the outdoors. So one of the best places you can go, and Kristen can actually speak to this because she just recently went there this past weekend, is the Alfred Greenway. It's a combination of like a park and a hiking trail. It goes around Lake Lafayette, which you can also use for fishing and kayaking if you want. It's great for hiking. It's not very intense, but you can use some of the higher hills if you want to get a little bit of a workout in. Most people just go to hang out, walk their dogs. It's less crowded. There's quite a few Tallahassee parks, and those are usually very popular. People don't usually go to this one, so it's really great if you're just looking to kind of hang out with somebody one-on-one, or if you're just really not looking to be in a big crowd. It's a pretty easy route. It's less than 4 miles, and it does connect with one of our other major parks, Tom Brown. And as you can see, it's a very pretty location, so it's one of our favorite places to go to. One of my favorite things to do in Florida in general is something called tubing. Tubing is a very American thing to do. What you essentially do is you get to the top of a river, you get in an inner tube, and then you float down the river for like 3 hours. It sounds kind of boring, but it's incredibly relaxing, and it's very, very fun. Generally speaking, you get a group of friends out there, you bring some food and snacks, you hang out in the water, listen to music, and just kind of float for a while. The Itchnatuckney is a particularly good place to do it because it's about a 3.5 mile float. The water is always 72 degrees. That's very cooling and relaxing, especially when it gets to 90+ degrees during the summer. It's incredibly relaxing. So this is one of those things where you definitely want to just check it out if you can. It's very, very fun. And then probably one of the coolest things that FSU has in general is called the FSU Reservation. Everybody just calls it the Res. It's a massive outdoor lakefront property that's completely free to everybody affiliated with FSU. There's some pictures of it right here. You can see it has a little bit of everything. It has canoeing, kayaking, you can take a boat course. There's an obstacle course, a ropes trail, frisbee, volleyball. Pretty much everything organized out there is for your enjoyment. It's a great place to go. It's the closest thing to a beach that we actually have in Tallahassee. There are some beaches that are about an hour and a half, 2 hours away, but those beaches are okay. But for the most part, this is going to be the closest thing you can get to a beach without driving for a while. It is going to be open this fall, but I believe that there are going to be some specialized attendance protocols in place. I do recommend that you check out Campus Rec and then just kind of check out the website ahead of time just to make sure that it's okay for you to head out. All right, so we'll talk about athletics real quick. So one of the major things about FSU is that we have a lot of sports teams, and a lot of those teams are very, very good at what they do. Just to let you know, we're classified as a Division I program. This just means that among all of the colleges in the United States, our athletes compete at the highest level. That's essentially what Division I means. Within our division, we're within a specific conference, which is called the ACC. This is one of the more important conferences, and it also means that we will play against other teams in this conference. So that means as you're here, you'll see us kind of competing against usually the same group of teams. That's because we're all within the same conference. All athletic events are free for students, save for certain championship situations. So like, for example, it's always free to go to a women's soccer game, but when we made and went to the national championship and won the national championship, you would have had to pay to get in to see that. We're still trying to see what the impact is going to be from COVID on upcoming athletic seasons. it's safe to assume that attendance is going to be kind of restricted. We don't know what football is going to look like. We don't know what some of the other major sports are going to look like. So just keep an eye on the FSU Athletics website. And if we hear anything, we'll do our best to let you know. But you're going to want to kind of monitor it yourself, because there's likely going to be rules in place for how many people are allowed to attend. And these are just some examples of some of our awesome sports teams. So we've got our women's softball team that, again, just won a national championship. We have our men's basketball team, which in my opinion was about to win a national championship before the tournament got canceled. Our baseball team is consistently one of the best in the country. Our women's volleyball team is also amazing. They always win. Our women's soccer team just won a couple of national championships. And then our football team, even in a down year, is still pretty fun to watch. So definitely check them out once things get back to normal. Highly recommended. And then we can't really go over all of them, but there are literally dozens and hundreds of club groups on campus, everything from comedy groups to musical groups, a cappellas, playwrights, everything. So these all run all year long. You're welcome to apply for one of these. They usually have tryouts. Again, things are kind of weird right now when it comes to group presentations and activities, because social distancing guidelines are in place. But once you're here and once things calm down a little bit, we absolutely recommend that you get involved. It's a great way to be on campus. All right, so my favorite thing in general about FSU is that we have a circus. There are 2 universities in the United States that have a collegiate circus, us and a college in Iowa. The one in Iowa is not very good. Ours is amazing. It's really, really cool to go to. The Halloween show in particular is phenomenal. It's completely run by students. It's a great show. It usually lasts, I think, around an hour. It's, again, free for students, and it's a legitimate circus. They've got trapeze, they've got everything you can think of. There's amazing junk food. So we don't quite know if they're going to be open, and if so, there's probably going to be reduced attendance. But as soon as you can go to a circus performance, you should. It's legitimately one of the best things you can do on campus. It's an awesome show. All right. So these are all examples of events that normally happen that obviously can't right now. But you can go to Visit Tallahassee once things start to step up, and you can see examples of all the things that go on in Tallahassee. Everything from First Friday, which is that picture up on the top left, to the Jingle Bell Run, which is on the bottom right, parades, concerts. There's always stuff going on, art shows. There's quite a lot of things to do. This is a very college town, so there's 3 college campuses here. There's us, FAMU, and TCC. So because of that, you have a lot of college-age people, and so there's a lot of college-oriented events going on. So always something to check out is Visit Tallahassee. In the meantime, they've actually set up virtual events. So what you can do is you can just click on the virtual experiences tab, and it goes through a full list of activities that you can do while you're kind of stuck in quarantine or while you're waiting for things to reopen. It's everything from a virtual museum tour to they have movies on there, concerts. It's pretty cool just to kind of get an idea of what Tallahassee is. So it's one of those things where once you get here, you can go to the virtual Tallahassee page and just kind of explore virtually until you're able to go out and see it on your own. So again, highly recommended. And that should do it for me. I'm going to hand it over to Philip Kramer, who will take over and talk to you about cybersecurity.
Good morning. My name is Phil Kramer, and I'm from the Information Security and Privacy Office, and I'm the Security Training Coordinator. And today we're going to talk about some basic cybersecurity to keep you safe. The main thing I really want to talk about today is phishing. Go ahead, Kevin. So what is phishing? Phishing is not only emails, it can be websites, and phone calls are getting more prevalent, as is text messaging, which we call smishing. The voice calls we'll call vishing. So if you hear me talk about vishing, that's when somebody calls you on the phone and wants you to do something to give them your information. Usually through an email, they'll have links in those emails that are probably not wise to click, or there may have some software attached to that email that installs behind the scenes that you don't notice, and it may be something like a keystroke logger. So they're monitoring your keystrokes and noting when you go onto sensitive sites such as your bank and maybe capture your user ID and password. So you just need to be very careful with these phishing emails. Next slide, please. Am I able to do that? Go ahead, Kevin. All right, so the types of phishing attacks, I talked about voice phishing, which we commonly call vishing. So that's using social engineering over the phone to gain access to some personal or financial information. Typically, they use it to steal your credit card information and proceed on to drain your bank account. So I'm sure everyone at one time has received one of these calls. Maybe you've won a prize and all you need to do is pay the handling fee and then give me your credit card information. And when you do that, they've got your information and may proceed on draining your bank account. Ones that we need to be very careful of, we've had in the past, international students called saying that they've committed a crime and that they're going to be arrested, or that their immigration documentation has expired, and if you don't pay us, we're going to get you deported, or you'll lose your legal status unless they're always, the caveat with these kind of phone calls is there's always a consequence. It's going to be, don't hang up the phone or you'll be in trouble. You owe taxes and you need to pay. And then they might say, you trust me, right? That's always a good hint that it may not be something legitimate. And then all you have to do is pay shipping. So the bottom line is, if you receive calls of this nature, especially if they say it's the FBI or immigration services or the police, they're not going to call you with stuff like this. So just politely decline to participate, hang up, let somebody at the Center for Global Engagement know that you've received these type of calls, because they may be targeting perhaps international students. So we want to make sure that we make everybody aware that this is going around. Okay, Kevin. Social engineering, this is using deception to manipulate someone to give up your personal information. So it can just be as simple as conversation, just talking to you, learning facts about you to maybe see what kind of patterns you have, what kind of websites you go to, what kind of restaurants do you like. Social media, they surf your social media sites, find out, names, dates of birth, locations, where are you, workplace, your hobbies, what kind of relationship status do you have. Maybe you have your email address or phone number on there. What kind of foods do you like? So maybe they track you like Indian food, and there's only a couple Indian restaurants in Tallahassee. So they start seeing when you're going there and maybe follow you to see what kind of habits you have. We have to be very careful, not only for the phishing, but just for your personal safety of posting information on websites. Because if you say, you're posting pictures of you're on vacation somewhere, say you went to Orlando and you're posting all these pictures, well, someone that sees this knows that you're not home. So maybe that's leaving you vulnerable, that they can go to your house and maybe break into your house. Not that that happens, but it's just something to be cognizant of. There was a time when a group of people actually scoured social media and made a website for awareness. They called it comerobme.com. And when you went there, it showed all these people that are posting all their vacation pictures showing that they're not at home. Now, they didn't do this for nefarious purposes. They just wanted to show that we are in the information sharing age, and people are very free with your information. You have to think about safety. So one of the tips is always post your travel pictures once you return back from vacation. Here are pictures of our last vacation. All right, next slide, please. So there's different types of phishing attacks. One is spear phishing, and that's when they send fraudulent emails from a known trusted sender in order to trick targeted individuals into giving up your information. So this could be someone you know, or they're acting like someone you know. So they may be targeting you to get your personal information, and 91% of our phishing that we see are of the spear phishing nature. Next slide, please. Clone phishing. So this is replicating a legitimately previously delivered email and replacing the attachment or link with some malicious version. So you may see important announcement emails coming out from FSU. So what they do is they clone that template, but instead of say they wanted you to go to fsu.edu, it may say fsu.edu, but they change the hyperlink to something that isn't fsu.edu. So they're very tricky because it comes from the same recipient address as the original message. and it's sent from an email that is spoofed to appear like it's coming from the original sender. So you have to inspect these emails very carefully. And the key on these is to hover over that link with your mouse, and you'll see where it's actually going. If it's not going to fsu.edu and maybe going to mymail.com or something like that, you know that it's probably not legitimate. If you have questions, always reach out to Kevin and the team at CGE, or you can reach out to us at the security office and ask us. We do have a phishing email box that you can forward suspected phishing emails to. It's abuse@fsu.edu, and we review these to determine whether or not they're legitimate or not. A lot of times it may just be a spam email. We also have a website off of our its.fsu.edu ISPO page called the Fish Tank, where we do post these phishing attacks that we are seeing with regularity. Next slide, please. So link manipulation, that's what I just was talking about. They'll take that link, and even though in the email it says www.fsu.edu, which is a perfectly safe link, they'll post their link behind it. So when you click it, it's not actually going there, it's going to some other site, and it may look like the FSU site, but it's not. So, and then they start asking you for information, and it looks legitimate, so you go ahead and put it in. Next thing they know, they have your user ID and password. So some things you want to look for are misspelled URLs, which is the link, or a subdomain that they've added inside of there. So it may be like fsu.lt.edu. So it's going to go to that fsu.lt. But if you look at that real fast, you see the edu in there, so you think, oh, this is legitimate. So that's why we say hover over that or tap the link to see. And then if you look at the bottom, also in your web browser, in the bottom left of your screen, when you hover over it, it'll show where it's going to. So just take your time on these type of emails, because we don't want you to put in, we don't want you clicking on these and having your password and your user ID compromised or your banking information compromised. Always, nothing. Another key thing is they'll say you have to do it right now. So they're trying to rush you to get it done, that this offer expires if you don't do it, hang up the phone right now. So those are also key indicators that you might want to be careful of. If they're trying to get you to do something quickly and that this is the only chance you have, that may be a key sign that it's not a legitimate website. Okay, next slide. So how to protect yourself. So here's some tips how we're going to protect ourselves. One thing to know, FSU will never ask, they'll never email you from the help desk and ask you for saying your password is compromised. We need your password so we can change it. Any changes you want to make to your user account are going to be initiated by you. Along these same notes, they're not going to call, the help desk isn't going to call you on the phone saying there's a problem with your account. The IRS will never call you and say you need to pay your taxes. The immigration's never going to call you to tell you that there's a problem with your visa and you need to pay us to get it fixed. FBI, police, same thing. So just anytime you get these type of calls, just politely say thank you, hang up, let somebody know in the CGE so we can do some investigation. Here's some tips to protect yourself from phishing. So any emails that ask you for passwords, you need to delete. Never send passwords, bank account, or other private information in an email or through a link from an email. Be cautious of opening any attachments you get, even if it's from someone you know. If you're not expecting something from someone, and they send you an attachment, it's good to check and say, hey, did you mean to send me this? Because you don't know if their email's been spoofed. Watch for spelling and grammatical errors. These are a key sign of a phishing email. So just take your time and read the email to make sure that it makes sense. Let me just move this. Contact the bank, credit card company, who are you doing business if you are contacted by them. So if somebody reaches out to you saying they're from Wells Fargo or SunTrust and you do bank with them, saying there's a problem with your account, just say, okay, let me look into it. and then you need to call them. You need to initiate the contact to find out if it's a legitimate issue. Hover over the long links to make sure it's a legitimate website. And then you'll notice in secure sites, you'll see that HTTPS and a lock up in the web bar where you type the web address. That means it's protected by a certificate, and that any web traffic that is sent through that link is going to be encrypted. So never, never, never buy something online if you don't see that HTTPS and a lock, because that means all the traffic going through the web is not encrypted. It's in clear text. So if somebody's running a packet capture on your web traffic, they're going to see all your credit card information, etc. Next slide, please. Here are some additional resources that we have. Like I said, there's the its.fsu.edu ISPO website where you'll see our fish tank and other resources. Here's a whole bunch of phishing sites that are out there. There's also the Federal Trade Commission phone scam site, so you can see if when they called me, was it really a scam? And then FBI also has a scam site right now. In the pandemic times, there's COVID scams going around where they'll call you and say, hey, if you want to get your stimulus payment, you need to give me your information. No, you don't. IRS already has that. If you file taxes, if you're eligible to get the information, they have your banking information on file. And the only way you can change that is if you initiate it with the IRS. So just be careful with those. Next slide, please. So ITS, which is Information Technology Services, that's who our office falls under, has free software, tools, and tech support that is available for international students. Office 365, you'll all be able to get that to Microsoft, Word, Excel, etc., PowerPoint. They have Wi-Fi on campus. So there's FSU Secure on campus. The virtual computer lab, free access to specialty software through there. We have our service desks that you can call if, I think it's 644-HELP, that you can call if you're having technology issues. We also have a contract with LinkedIn Learning. So you use your FSU credentials to log into LinkedIn Learning, and you have access to thousands of courses online, especially on the technology side. So if you're interested in becoming a CISSP, a information security specialist, there's a whole courses online that you can sit through and get some practice on what you need to learn for the exam. There's a tech list with tips and tricks. We have student computing support where they have discounted on-campus support for you that you can go into Shaw Building over by the library there. And there's more info available at its.fsu.edu/students. We have a Twitter site at Florida State ITS that we post the latest technology security incidents that are out there. Every Tuesday we have Tech Tip Tuesday, so there's a useful tip that you may be able to use with some piece of technology that you may be using. So I would say go to Twitter and check out that site. Good information there. Here is my contact information, and you can also reach out to Kevin and he can get in touch with me if you need to talk to me. My email is right there, my phone number, that is my work phone, but it is forwarded to my cell phone. So if you needed to call me for any reason, you can dial this number and I will get your call. And I think that's it. Thank you very much. Welcome to FSU. Stay safe and monitor the storms that are coming. We should be getting some information out about what the prognosis is for the storm.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started, but before we move into safety in the U.S., we're going to do a little Zoom poll. I don't know if you have used those before. Laura's going to put it on the screen, and now you can click on and answer these questions to learn a little bit more about who is here today. So are you a first-year student, a transfer student? Will you be in the U.S. for the fall semester? Are you a student athlete? Are you going to be on campus this semester? You can go ahead and put your answers in, and then you'll have a general idea of who else is in this meeting. We realized from another orientation that sometimes, however people are logging in, they had a little trouble, but we're got just about everybody. Okay, I'll give it a couple more seconds, and if the last person can't get in, we definitely understand that people have had technology problems with this. Okay, I'm going to end the polling. Okay, so the group here, I'm going to share the results, and you can see that most of you are freshmen. Only one person is a transfer student, and then plan to be here for the fall semester. Of those of you attending, it's about half and half. So half of you are either in another US state or in your home country for the fall. You can see that we have 7 student athletes in the group today, and it looks like almost half and half for living on campus or not. So anyhow, that's a little bit about who's here today, and you'll get a little more chance to talk to each other at the end of the day. I'm going to go ahead and see. Okay, stop share. And then we can move on to this section. Okay, safety in the US. I know Philip talked about phone scams. I'm going to emphasize it again because we have actually had international students lose thousands of dollars. You are particularly vulnerable because you really care about your status, and the scammers can be really good in what they convince you to do. Recently, one of our staff members and one of our students, I'm talking about this week, got calls from somebody saying they were the Social Security Administration or calling from the US Marshal's office, and your Social Security number had been compromised in Texas. And anyhow, our student was smart enough, and they contacted their international student advisor, who said, that's a scam, it's great that you hung up. Our staff member wanted to, that's Tanya, who's here this morning, she stayed on the phone and was telling them, leave our students alone.
Sure did. I actually got a call just moments ago. Yeah.
So they are active, and that's
Yes.
why we're telling you to be smart. Tell your fellow students that the scammers are out there. If they ask you to go buy gift cards and then read out the number, don't do it. If they convince you to go to your bank to transfer money and to lie to the teller about the purpose for the transfer, don't do it. They are convincing. Smart students have had problems. So that's why we're emphasizing this. If you ever suspect identity theft, there's identitytheft.gov. It'll give you steps of what to do. FTC is the Federal Trade Commission, and they have a lot of information about scams. There's even a story about international students. So feel free to hang up and just please be careful. We don't want any more students to lose money or their identity. Okay, I am trying to. Okay, I am trying to advance the slide there. Okay. FSU Guardian, if you have a medical condition that could prevent you from communicating in an emergency, you can sign up for that so that the first responders would know more about you. I am going to back up because I went delayed. Okay. Yeah, going back to this one. Thank you, Tanya. The FSU Police Department is right on campus. They have a lot of resources for you. So if you go to their website, you'll see things about drinking and driving. We've had students get in legal trouble for things like this. Active shooter training, you don't like to think about that, but there is an online video, so you'd be prepared. Sexual violence prevention, more information about what's stalking. I did not do that. Okay, you can register your personal property. If you want to have things registered in case it were stolen, you can do that with the police office. They have crime maps and information if you're looking at different neighborhoods, and you will see them on campus, on bikes, walking around. So they are there to protect everybody. Okay, this is advancing really slowly. Okay. Okay, the next one, hurricane prep. Those of you who are actually in Florida may or may not have been looking at the news, but there are some tropical depressions. And by Sunday, we might know if there is a storm that could change into a hurricane. Our director told me that it would be named Laura. So I'm not sure what Laura on our staff thinks about that. There are apps that you can download. The Seminole Safe, the Leon County Citizens Connect can tell you about the storms. It can tell you when there is power outages in town, and if the city is working on it. They can tell you about closed roads. My FSU, that app might also have information. So, you know, pay attention to these things and look at the little emergency preparedness kit. When you're in a residence hall, FSU is going to try to take care of you, keep you informed, but it never hurts to have things like water available, batteries, have a backup phone charger, you know, so you have some extra power if you need it. Some food that wouldn't require cooking. These slides are going to be available to you later, so you'll be able to look at this slide, but pay attention to the weather, pay attention to the alerts. We have had campus shut down for a few days with limited power and no school because of hurricanes in the fall semester. It's become a little more common. I've worked at FSU for over 25 years, and it's more in the recent 5 to 10 that we've had this be an issue. Oh, okay, sorry. Oh. Okay, student conduct. FSU has a code of conduct and expectations for students. So it has to do with how you interact with people of the opposite sex, respecting each other, substance abuse. FSU cares about what you're doing both on and off campus, so you can be subject to FSU's code of conduct for what you do off campus too, because when you're off campus, you're still an FSU student. There are a lot of websites, again, when you have time, look through these things. Know More tells you more about sexual misconduct. I think all of you probably saw these things in your undergrad orientations. Report.fsu.edu if you want to report any kind of incident. And then if you want to read the student code of conduct and see what's expected, you can look there. Victims aren't blamed. So remember that. You can report and get help. We'll have programs later in the semester with the Victim Advocate program. Victims Advocate also helped the student who was a victim of a scam too. So they are there when you were feeling stressed and something has happened to you. So use that resource. University Counseling Center, they're doing, you can walk in to the counseling center, which is, well, it's sort of in the heart of campus near our building. And I think you will be having virtual session with a counselor, but you can be seen right then. They also have phone numbers for resources on their website. I believe you need to be in Tallahassee, or I mean in Florida, to use the services because of licensing, but you can read and get the information on the website. University Health Services, a huge big resource on campus. Tallahassee Refuge House is a community victim of domestic violence, and then Legal Services of North Florida for legal services that would be free. Any conversation with one of us at the CGE is not confidential, so if you told us something had happened to you, we would need to report it to the official authorities, but you could also ask us if you need resources without telling us, and we would help direct you to the right people. COVID-related information, you're probably getting that everywhere, but please do wear your masks out in public, even on campus. 6 foot distance when you can with groups. limit your time in public settings. Just be careful. I know you're hearing a lot from campus, and we want to emphasize that too. Emergency contact information. If you're ever traveling in the future and anything, you have delays at the airport with immigration and they wanted to contact us just to be sure your CVIS record is okay, our main phone number, that's 644-1702, has a recorded message, and there would be a number where immigration could reach us anytime. Non-emergency police number, 644-1234. You'll see this slide later because we'll have the link if you need to look anything up. And remember, 911 is the emergency number. I'm going to turn this over to Tanya, who can tell you a lot of important information about health and wellness.
Hi, I'm Tanya Shad. I know my name looks different in Zoom. I go by my middle name. I have taken over the insurance part of this presentation because I worked with insurance for many years with the J1 visa. It's a requirement for that particular visa type. So I'm the liaison between our office and the health center in terms of, you know, deciding upon what the FSU insurance is going to look like next year, kind of big issues in terms of getting holds released and things like that. That kind of filters through me usually. So that's why I'm doing this particular section. Most of you probably won't interact with me in the future because I do only deal with J1 students, but still having trouble too. Oh, I'm having trouble advancing as well.
I'm glad it wasn't just me.
All right, so for those of you who are here in town, you might be able to walk past the health center if you need to be on campus. And it's a beautiful, relatively new building with lots and lots of resources when we're open. So I think for the most part, they're trying to keep most people out of the health center as much as possible, just keep, you know, social distancing in place. But you can reach them by telehealth if you're here in Tallahassee or in Florida. They have physicians who can talk to you by phone, kind of assess your situation, figure out if it's something that you need to get follow-up care for or need testing. So do take advantage of that. All of these resources are available to you through your student fees that you pay. So take advantage. I mean, you've already paid for it. Use these resources as much as possible. They have a lot of health promotion activities available at the health center. If you're a smoker and you want to stop smoking, if you are eating badly here in the US, eating pizza all the time, and then you want to try to improve your diet, they have a nutritionist on staff. The fitness and movement clinic is there and eventually will be open and available for students. That's another healthcare facility outside of the Leach Center. They are your first stop for all non-emergency care, mostly because it's going to be your cheapest option, no matter what. If you have the FSU insurance, it's free to see a doctor there. It's covered by your insurance. If you have any other type of insurance, it's going to be cheaper than going elsewhere. So always make this your first stop for non-emergency care. They also will be dealing with your insurance questions, your immunization questions and holds. So if you still have those holds on your account at the end of this session today, you want to be in contact with health compliance so that you can get those holds cleared before the weekend. You don't want to be registering late on Monday. If you are outside of Florida and you are covered by the FSU health insurance, you can get telehealth services through the insurance. So that's important if you're in Missouri or Colorado and you want to touch base with a physician. All right, so that was your non-emergency care. If you are in a life-threatening condition, you have chest pains, you're having trouble breathing, you're bleeding and you don't know why, you've passed out and you don't know why, these are conditions where you need to get emergency help and you need to dial 911. 911 is the emergency number for any type of emergency. My apartment is on fire, I've passed out, someone is threatening me, 911 is what you're going to call for that. With 911, they're going to call an ambulance and get care to you immediately. So do be sure it is a life-threatening emergency. Do not dial 911. You know, if you're just not feeling well and you think you might need to talk to someone, this is life-threatening emergencies. If you're in a situation where you're not sure it's life-threatening, but you know, you feel like you should get some care, you should get some attention, what you want to seek is urgent care. Urgent care is somewhere in between the hospital emergency room and scheduling an appointment 3 weeks out to see a physician. So urgent care, you can usually have a same-day appointment with a physician. In some places, urgent care is going to be available later in the evening, usually until 9 or 10 o'clock, and also on weekends. So if you're needing some kind of care just to, you know, get you through to the next day to see a physician, that's where you're going to go. It's going to be a lot cheaper than going to the hospital. Do not go to the hospital for non-emergencies. So if you're not feeling well, you haven't felt well for a couple of days, telehealth is going to be your first option. Hey, do I need to go to an urgent care facility? Do I need to go to a doctor? Hospital emergency room is going to be your last resort. You're going to use that for, like I said, life-threatening emergencies, because it'll be very, very expensive. Some of the things I'm going to go over today, I know you've got plenty of to-do lists, but these are just your healthcare to-do lists. I'll go over these one by one. You will have had at some point an immunization hold on your record that's going to prevent you from registering for classes. If you still have that hold on your record, be sure to talk to health compliance today. They have been pretty lenient if you explain that your doctor is unavailable, you can't get to your doctor to get your immunization record, or you can't get it signed, or you can't get in to get an immunization today. So they'll lift those immunization holds temporarily. They will put them back on your account at a later time so that you can't register for spring, for instance. So you will need to get your immunizations taken care of at some point in time, but the health center will work with you to try to get those lifted if you have a reason, a COVID-19 related reason for not having them. If you did fill out that immunization form and you waived things like meningitis, like I can't get that right now in the midst of a pandemic, that's understandable. Hepatitis serious takes a long time. You have 3 different shots, so I don't have time to get that right now, I'm gonna waive it. You can still get those immunizations at a later time with your FSU insurance. The FSU insurance covers it at 100% at the health center. If you get those immunizations at the health center, you don't have to pay anything for them. If you have another type of insurance, it's probably not going to cover immunizations. So just keep that in mind. But those missing ones that you just waived off of, feel free to go ahead and take advantage of those in the future when the health center opens again. It is really important to review your insurance policy. I know it's a lot of information. It's really boring information, but insurance is not something you're going to want to think of when you're in an emergency healthcare situation. So now is the time to look at those brochures for your insurance. I know athletes have a lot taken care of through athletics. It's still a good idea to know what exactly is taken care of through athletics and what isn't. So now is the time. If you are covered through athletics, just ask the contact there for more information about your insurance plan. For those of you who have the FSU health insurance through the health center, you can go to this website listed, uhcsr.com/FSU. That stands for United Healthcare Student Resources, and that's your insurance provider with the FSU insurance. So at that site, you'll be able to click on a link to view the brochure for that policy. And same with alternate plans. They're going to have something that looks like that image on the right there to click on a brochure. One of the things that you're going to need to keep in mind if you're still deciding on insurance, hopefully not, but if you're still trying to figure out what you're going to do about insurance, is the network. It's important to know what network is attached to your insurance policy. And what this means is that the insurance company has gone out to every healthcare provider in the United States, everywhere, and has gone to those providers and said, hey, we'd like to charge $250 for this type of x-ray. Will you accept that? And that x-ray technician says, yes, I will, and they become part of the network for that insurance. This happens with every type of treatment, every type of test, every physician, every hospital, every lab. They really do go out to every provider and ask those providers to be part of their network. Some providers say no. Anesthesiologists, for the most part, say, hey, if someone's in surgery, they're not going to decide who their anesthesiologist is. They're just going to get whoever's there. So I don't want to be part of your network. I'm going to charge whatever I'd like. I don't want to be bound to those agreements. So you will have providers who are not part of your network and are going to be more expensive. That's the only thing to really keep in mind with that. If you go to an out-of-network provider, it's still going to be covered to some extent by your insurance. It's just going to cost you more. So if you have a doctor you like, or a certain type of specialist that you need to see, but they're not in network, that's fine. You can still see them. You're just going to need to know that you'll pay a little bit more. The reason for these networks is that there is no centralized control of costs in the US. There's no government agency that's telling pharmaceutical companies how much they can charge or telling x-ray technicians how much they can charge. It's really up to the insurance company and the healthcare provider to work that out amongst themselves. So in order to have predictable costs for you, for your insurance company, and to keep your premiums down to a reasonable rate every year, they do go out to these networks and try to figure out, what those costs are going to look like. The insurance company keeps 20% for their operating costs, 20% of your premiums that you pay into the insurance. And then the remainder of your premium goes out to pay for healthcare costs of all of the individuals who are covered under the plan. And that's how it works every year. The insurance company, at least with US-based plans like the FSU health insurance, they would have to pay you back if they took in more than 20%. So they're trying to keep it that 20%. Out-of-network providers, like I said, you can go to them. They are going to be more expensive. You are going to want to know what those costs are, and I'll go over that a little bit more in the next slides. Again, when you're looking at your policy brochures, there's going to be terminology that's going to be somewhat unfamiliar probably. Premium is the cost that you pay for the policy to enroll in the policy. It's kind of like paying a fee to be part of a student group. That student group says that everybody pays $20 and that's what we use for pizza and sodas and parties. And the more they take in, the more they're going to be able to provide to that group. And it's the same way for insurance. So your premium is usually paid annually. You can usually split it up between fall and spring summer. Spring summer is combined. You cannot skip the summer coverage. That is important so that you're continuously enrolled in insurance and you have coverage even if you're not enrolled in courses. So keep in mind that premium will change each August. So we have the premium, we know what the premium is for this coming year, but we don't know what next year is going to look like. And next year's premium is likely to be quite a bit more costly than this year for various reasons. So that premium gets you into the policy. And then in order to keep that premium from being outrageous, and by outrageous, I mean $4,500 a month, you still will pay a little bit of your healthcare costs as you use the coverage. So if the insurance paid for everything and you just paid a premium to pay for everything, that would be, like I said, $4,500 a month. But no one has that. I don't have that. So the way around this is to kind of guide people's behavior and kind of distribute costs more equitably. So if you do go to a doctor, if you do see a doctor outside of the healthcare center, you're going to pay a copay, a flat fee to see that doctor. We like copays. Copays are good. They're predictable. You pay $40 to see the physician and you're done. You don't pay anything more for that visit. But if you have a big emergency and you end up in the hospital and you're in the hospital for a week, that's when you get into things like deductibles and co-insurance. So the deductible is the first amount of that hospital bill that you're going to pay before the insurance company starts paying. So that deductible is really meant to keep people out of the hospital, essentially. You know, they want it to be an expense that you're trying to avoid if you can. If not, if you do have an emergency, you'll pay usually $500 in a deductible, and then you'll pay 20% of the remaining cost. So that means that people who are using healthcare more are going to pay a little bit more when they need to see a physician. But people who never go to the doctor, but for once a year, you know, they're going to pay less for their healthcare costs. Exclusions are a part of every insurance policy, even the FSU policy, especially the athletics policy. So exclusions that are common to all healthcare plans in the US are routine eye care. So if you are someone like me who needs contacts or glasses to be able to see at all, you're going to pay for those costs out of pocket. So you just go to the physician, you get your exam, you get your glasses, your contacts, and you pay for it out of pocket. There are insurance plans available for eye care and dental care, but it's usually just a prepaid type of thing. So you're going to pay exactly the same amount. You'll just pay it over the course of 12 months. So usually those insurance plans are really just, they're just to spread your costs. They're not going to really prevent you from having to pay what you would normally. Any kind of dental work, like you have a sore tooth, you have a broken tooth, you need a root canal, anything like that is not going to be covered under your health insurance. For some reason, it's not considered a health cost in the US. Like I said, you can get dental insurance, but usually it's just going to be the same as what you'll pay out of pocket. But dental work in the US is very expensive. If you can get it while you're at home, do that at home. The only exception is if you were in an accident, if you fell and broke your teeth, your health insurance will cover the cost of alleviating your pain and kind of cleaning up your teeth. They're not going to replace your teeth. It's not going to, provide you a bridge or any kind of dental work. It's just to alleviate pain in that case. But you'll still have to go to a dentist and pay the extra cost to have your teeth repaired. Car accidents fall under car insurance. So everyone here has to have car insurance that will cover you and me if we are injured by someone else. So if you are involved in a car accident in any way, hit by a car crossing the street, God forbid, on your bicycle and get bumped by a car, make sure that you get the driver's insurance, car insurance information, because any healthcare costs have to be billed to their car insurance. Same if you're a passenger in a car, get the driver's car insurance. If you ended up in the hospital from an accident like that, those bills would be rejected by your health insurance. So it has to go to your car insurance. This is important for athletes too. The health insurance that you have for athletics may not cover a car accident. So you want to keep that in mind too as you're out in the world doing things. Work injuries, if you happen to have a job on campus and you got hurt, that would be covered by FSU, by your employer. A lot of young students go out and look for alternate health insurance policies because they are extremely cheap for young people. But keep in mind that all insurance is going to have that 80-20 split. So if the insurance company is taking less money from you, they're going to have less money to pay out for healthcare costs. So they have to institute a lot of exclusions of very expensive healthcare costs in order to allow you to pay just that very cheap premium, you know, maybe a tenth of what you pay for the FSU insurance. So the way they do that is they'll say, we don't cover pre-existing conditions at all. So if you show up at a hospital or at a doctor and that doctor says, you've had this condition for 3 months and you've only had insurance for a month, that's not going to be covered by your insurance at all, even if you haven't been treated or seen for that condition before. Hospital visits for non-emergencies, this has become more and more common with cheaper insurance. If the insurance company deems that you went to the hospital and it was not an emergency situation, they will not cover the cost at all. Injuries from any sports. So this is why athletes are on their own insurance. Sports-related injuries are common and they're expensive. So a lot of these cheaper plans will not cover any injuries from sports at all, to the point of you were playing soccer in the backyard with your roommate and you sprained your ankle. The cost for that will not be covered at all by these cheaper insurance plans. Injuries or illnesses while consuming alcohol means, in a lot of cases, anything that happens. So if you had a glass of wine and you broke your ankle walking down the street an hour later, this may not be covered by the cheaper insurance plans. And injuries from riding a scooter, I mentioned this because we have had at least 2 international students who've been in very, very bad scooter accidents, very, very expensive healthcare costs from those accidents. If you had a cheaper insurance plan, it would not cover those very, very expensive costs at all. So this is what you need to pay very careful attention to if you're considering something other than the FSU health insurance. The FSU health insurance will cover these things, but you know, this is a choice that you're going to have to make as you evaluate your plans. Just a quick example, we have had at least one student collapse on campus, international student collapse on campus from overheating. It happens in the summertime when it's hot and humid and people forget to drink enough water. So our poor student just passed out and fell on her face on campus, broke her face. It was terrible. She was taken to the hospital in an ambulance. These are the costs that are involved. Ambulance is probably around $1,200. You get a separate bill for that from the ambulance company. Emergency room services, this is just for someone to get you into a room and to order tests and to call the doctor. That's about $500 from the hospital. The doctor who comes to see you or who tells their nurse to see you, they're going to charge separately as well. They're going to have their own bill. Let's say that's about $500. And then all kinds of tests to make sure that you you don't have a brain condition or a heart condition or something that's caused you to pass out other than dehydration or overheating. So when you are in the emergency room, they are going to assume it's a life-threatening condition and they are going to do these tests. Even if you say, I'm just dehydrated, I'm sorry, I shouldn't be here. They are gonna check just to be sure, and that's gonna be costly. So let's say the total bill is $4,000. You'll have a $500 deductible, that's the first part of that bill. You're gonna have a copay if you are not admitted to the hospital. So if you are just dehydrated, there's a $350 copay. If they learn that you have a serious condition and you need to be in the hospital for a week, that copay does not apply. then you pay 20% of the remaining costs. So you can see from this example that insurance will not cover 100% of your healthcare costs if you had an emergency, but it will cover a substantial amount. So of that $4,000 bill, about a third. So that's good. If you were in another state and you were taken to an out-of-network hospital because you don't know who that in-network hospital is, this would be a $1,000 deductible for the out-of-network. It would be a $350 copay again, but 30% of the remaining costs. So for out-of-network, you're going to pay a little over half for that bill. So you can kind of extrapolate that to going to a specialist that you like. Instead of paying a third, you'll probably pay more like a half. Some other real-world examples that have happened to very young, healthy students on our campus. We had an exchange student who fell and broke her arm on the way to class. It was a complicated break, and she had to have physical therapy for 6 months. That bill was in excess of $20,000 that she would have paid if she didn't have insurance. We had a student who, at another institution before he transferred into FSU, went to the hospital with a severe stomach pain and ended up having surgery. And his bill was over $45,000 before insurance. So this is why you need insurance. You may be thinking, I can afford a $4,000 bill in the hospital, but if it's something serious, it's going to be a lot more than $4,000. Healthcare costs in the US are excessive. To find your in-network providers, again, this is the site for the FSU plan. Each plan is going to have its own network. Some common ones are My First Health and MultiPlan. And when you go to that site, you're going to type in your address and look for those healthcare providers that you need. Keep in mind that this will be labs, it'll be x-ray technicians, that type of thing. It's by specialty. So you can't assume that your doctor is going to know who the in-network lab is for your insurance, or the in-network MRI tech is for your insurance. You'll have to look that up. Oops, there we go. Have a printed copy of your insurance card with you at all times. Don't rely upon an electronic copy on your phone. You want to have a paper copy with you. Because trust me, if you're screaming in pain in the emergency room, you're not going to want to figure out where that card is on your phone. You're going to want to have somebody look through your wallet, look through your purse, look through your backpack to try to find that card. They're also going to want your ID to make sure that the person who's insured is the person they're seeing. So in all healthcare situations, make sure that you have both with you, your photo ID and your insurance card, a printed copy of it. They're going to make copies of those. They're going to bill your insurance, ideally, and then any remaining costs will be billed to you directly. You can usually go in and log into your account and print your own insurance card. You can use that paper copy, that's fine. Or the insurance companies will mail it to you. You'll have to ask for it to be mailed to you, but they will do that. And that's a nicer, thicker card usually. It might be a good idea to save for your healthcare costs. If you don't end up ever needing to pay a copay or a deductible, you'll have a little vacation fund for later. But in most cases, like I said, if you have your insurance card with you, your bills will go to the insurance company. The insurance will pay their portion of it, and then the remaining costs are billed to you. Any co-pays you usually pay in the office at that time, but sometimes they come to you later instead. So keep copies of all of those bills, make sure that you know what you've paid, make sure that it matches up with what you expect from your insurance policy, from what you've read in that brochure. If your provider doesn't take your insurance, lost the information somehow, didn't bill the people correctly, then you may get those bills in the mail. You may have to file claims on your own. And there are going to be procedures for how to do that in your brochure or policy. So be sure that you file those claims on time, otherwise the insurance company may not pay the bills at all. In just about every instance I've had where I've ended up in the emergency room, it hasn't been billed correctly. So ask questions. If you think you're not being billed correctly, talk to your insurance company, talk to the provider, and make sure that it's all worked out. Don't assume that they know what they're doing, unfortunately. If you can't afford the remaining costs, that co-insurance, that 20%, usually the healthcare providers will work with you to negotiate that down. So as long as you've paid your deductible and you've paid your copay, that 20% remaining can, in some cases, be eliminated altogether, but definitely can be reduced. So I've had scholars who, had a $6,000 bill. They said, I can't really afford a $6,000 bill. And the hospital has reduced it down to half of that. So that is possible. Definitely ask questions, see what you can do about it. Don't just assume that it must all be paid. Insurance for fall, this is what everyone wants to know. If you haven't already done this, you do need to have insurance for fall, especially if you're in the US. Athletes will need to talk about athletics. There's a process that athletics goes through. I don't know what that process is. They're your experts on that, but I do advise that you ask them what the process is, what your insurance covers, what it doesn't cover, and how to get an insurance card in case you need it for unexpected emergencies. Everyone else will enroll at studentinsurance.fsu.edu before you register for classes. So you can enroll in either the fall coverage or annual coverage at that site. If you're covered by a parent's health insurance, for instance, you have a parent who's in the US and they are employed, their employer covers them and you may be able to waive the insurance at that site as well. Be sure that you have evacuation and repatriation insurance separately though. Employer plans do not cover evacuation and repatriation. You can usually get that coverage very cheaply, like $60 a year. It's very, very affordable. Students who are not in the US in the fall may be able to have their insurance hold removed. There's a form that you need to complete to ask for an exemption from the insurance requirement. If you are in the US, but you're not in Florida, you're not in Tallahassee, you still do have to have insurance. It's required. It's related to your enrollment at a Florida university, not whether or not you're located in Florida. So you do have to have insurance if you're in Michigan studying. So be sure that you do that. Be sure that you enroll in your spring coverage before spring registration opens. So a lot of times students will contact us and say, I've already done the insurance. I don't know why I have a hold for spring. Well, they did the insurance for fall, but they didn't do it for spring. So if you choose just the fall coverage right now, keep in mind that you'll need to choose your spring summer coverage by mid-October when class registration opens again. And then you also want to be sure that you've paid for your fall coverage by mid-October. Otherwise, you won't be able to enroll because of that outstanding cost on your student account. You can pay a little at a time if you'd like. You can pay it all at once if you'd like, but do be sure that it's all paid before mid-October. I assume that we don't have a lot of dependents or any dependents in this group since you're undergrads. But there are some options for spouse and children if that applies to you. Update your local mailing address. This is important for a number of reasons. We need it for your immigration status if you're in the US. The police, if they needed to check on you in an emergency situation, would likely look at your FSU account to try to figure out where you are. Make sure it's your account, not your parents' or friends, family's account or address in the US. We really want to see your address, even if it's not in Tallahassee. And this is also where an insurance card would be mailed to you if you request one from United Healthcare. And I think this is the last slide. A little bit more COVID-19 related info. By this time, if you're in housing, you've probably already gotten your COVID-19 test, but if not, there is testing available through August 23rd at the Civic Center. You do have to register 24 hours in advance for your test. You do not have to have the test results back before you move into housing. Be sure that you bring a photo ID with you. They want to see that when you're checking in, again, to make sure that they have the right information attached to that test. There are other free testing sites in the community, so if you find you can't get an appointment at the Civic Center or you just prefer to go elsewhere, FAMU has a testing site. There's a Home Depot site that does free testing. These are located at that Leon County app we mentioned earlier, Citizens Connect app, or you can find it online. And everyone who's traveled outside of the US, from outside of the US, must self-quarantine for 14 days, according to the health center, prior to coming to campus. So if you do have a class that requires in-person attendance, and you are quarantining, be sure that you talk to the instructors, be sure that you let them know that you're in quarantine and will not be able to attend that first class meeting. That is really important because you will be dropped from the class if they don't know this. So keep that in mind. I think that's it for me. Yes, so Jared is next. I'll hand that over to him.
Alrighty, hello everyone. I'm Jared. I am one of the F1 advisors here, and I am going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to be talking about FSU academic resources and success. Okay, so course registration. I believe all of you have already gone through this. Registration is through the undergraduate orientation. I believe all of you have already done that at this point. If you haven't, you'll want to make sure that you contact New Student and Family Programs Services Office, and I have that contact information right there. The drop add period will begin tomorrow at midnight tonight, and this will allow you to freely change your classes, add your courses that you need, remove the ones that you don't want, and you'll be free to do that up until Thursday night at midnight. Again, Tanya had just mentioned this to you, that you must attend the first meeting of each of your classes or you may lose your place in class. So if you are quarantining, keep that in mind to contact your professor if it is an in-person class. In terms of the online classes, I believe professors are going to be using an online component to take enrollment for that first day. So you'll want to check with your professor or look in your course syllabus at the beginning of the course to follow up with that. In terms of tuition and fees, the student business services, they're the ones that take the payments from you, and you pay via wire transfer online at the UCA 1500. That is their office is at the football stadium, University Center A. So if you're looking for where that is on campus, just go to the football stadium and you should be able to find it. Agency billing. So for those of you who are SOCM, Fulbright, or have some sort of other foreign government scholarship program that you're in, the way that this works is that you will go through the drop add period, and then once the drop add period ends, the following day, you would complete the agency billing form and submit it to the Student Business Services Office. If this applies to you, you can reach out to us. We can give you more information on that, contact information of who you need to get in touch with over there. The regular payment deadline will be Friday, September 4th at 11:59 p.m. So do be sure to have your payments in by that point. And some additional considerations on the fees. The Student Business Services Office will no longer accept cash as a payment option for students or other account holders. So if this applies to you, let us know. We'll get you the appropriate contacts of who you can talk to make your payments. by and large, payment by electronic check. That's very common for students, and that carries no additional service fee charges. They also have a drop box located right now between the two towers on the, so the way the FSU football stadium is one side is A, one side is B, one side is C, and one side is D. That's how they separate the offices over there. So there's two towers on the A side, A1 and A2, and in the middle of that, there'll be a drop box located over there as well. If you'd like to drop your deposits, your payments in there, checks, money orders, and that's to reduce the in-person contact between you and the office. Okay, so getting into classroom culture a little bit in the U.S., this might be very new for all of you. I believe most of you are freshmen. So classroom sizes can vary greatly. They can be as small as 10. Some of those initial classes that you might be in might be as big as 200 for some of that core coursework at the freshman level. The syllabus, that's your complete guide to your class. That's pretty much going to have most of the information you need on there. The schedule, it's going to tell you when the tests are going to be, the texts that you need to read for that class, and pretty much just everything that's expected for you in that course. So it's definitely really important to keep that, look over it periodically, make sure you're keeping up to date with everything that's going on in that class. And that's probably also going to have information about that enrollment component at the beginning of each class for you. Teaching styles. So in the US, we have very much a student-centered learning model. Professors expect and want you to contribute to the conversation, to engage with your fellow classmates, and sort of voice your opinion and what you bring to that discussion. Interactions with professors, voice your needs, let them know what's missing, what you need from that class. They have office hours where you can walk in and meet with them one-on-one to talk to them about any issues that you're having. And they're very helpful. Also, we love presentations, participation in group work in the US. This is also very common, so you can expect that you'll be working with your classmates to present on a topic of some kind at some point, among other things. Okay, so religious holiday observances, professors will accommodate class absences from observance of religious holidays. It is your responsibility to let them know plenty of time in advance, at least 2 weeks in advance. So I would say if you already know that there's an upcoming religious holiday for you for the fall semester, to go ahead and just get that out of the way, let the professor know early so that when the time comes that there won't be any issue with you missing anything for that particular course period. So just give them plenty of time in advance to know about that. Okay, and so in terms of academic integrity and plagiarism, these are very serious violations, not just at FSU, but at any American university. And these are things that you want to make sure that you're, it can be easy to fall in some traps sometimes. So you just want to make sure that you're staying on top of how you're presenting your work. So some things that are considered violations of the academic honor code include plagiarism, cheating, unauthorized group work. So if the professor said you were supposed to work on something individually and you were working as a group, you could be penalized for that. Fabrication or falsification and misrepresentation. So you are inaccurately presenting things for your course or a paper you're writing, for example. Multiple submissions. So what that means is, let's say you write a really great paper for one course, you cannot then use that exact same paper for another course and submit it twice. That's considered a violation. And you can plagiarize yourself. That is possible. Abuse of academic materials, complicity in any kind of academic dishonesty. And it's not just limited to these things. There are certainly other areas that could be considered violations as well. So just make sure you're careful about all of that. So in terms of plagiarism specifically, FSU defines plagiarism as presenting the work of another as one's own. without proper acknowledgement of the source. So using another work from print, web, or other media sources without acknowledging the source. So it can be something as simple as saying on a paper, you know, the population of Russia is 140 million people. Well, you didn't go to Russia and count every single person. So you don't know that unless you drew that from somewhere. So you need to cite that in your paper. Quoting from another source without citation, so direct quotes, even indirect quotes, you want to make sure you're citing those as well. Using facts, figures, graphs, charts, or information without acknowledgement of the source. And there are a couple of different types of ways to cite. The most commonly used ones here in the US are the APA format and the MLA format. So, and this is something that should appear on the syllabus as well. I know when I was a student here, the professor was very clear about which type of citations I needed to use, examples of how to make those citations and where to find resources. So that's something that that there should be some help there as well. I'm gonna give you some more information in just a second about that as well. So be familiar with those styles. Professors do utilize an online platform, this Turnitin program. So what that does is when you submit something, this automatically sort of filters what you wrote, what you submitted, and determines exactly how original it is. So they will be checking for this when you do submit work. Violations of FSU academic honor policy, especially plagiarism, does and can have serious consequences, not just academically, but also on your visa status as well. So it can impact your immigration record. Okay, so resources. The FSU library on campus has a lot of great resources for you. There is a reading and writing center that is reopening on Monday, August 31st. And what they help out with is individual instruction and composition, reading through one-on-one tutoring, small group workshops. This is something that you'll make an appointment with online. And so if you're trying to get familiar with sort of the American writing style or what, or you just, you know, you could use a little advice on how to write, that's a great resource to utilize. We do have tutoring also through the library, conducted via Zoom, and the hours are Sunday through Wednesday, 8 p.m. to 12 a.m. for math, physics, and chemistry. They also have other subjects as well that they can provide you help with as well. And we have that link there for you to be able to start scheduling something. Okay, and also we have the Academic Center for Excellence, and this helps undergraduate students, like, and all of you are undergraduate students, develop those study skills and personal success habits. So if you're having trouble getting adjusted initially, it can be overwhelming. Time management, you know, staying healthy. These are the sorts of things that they might be able to coach you on to help you, you know, evolve as a student here at FSU. And librarians, the librarians are very helpful as well. If you are having trouble accessing a document that you need, maybe it's a scholarly research article that you need to help write a paper, definitely reach out to those folks over there. They're really great at finding you the information that you are having trouble accessing. And, you know, because you're all FSU students, you are automatically granted access to whatever articles you need, through particularly ones that require subscriptions and things like that. So definitely reach out to them as well. The Career Center, they are located in the building next to us on campus. They're just like a 10-second walk from our building to their building. And I actually work as the liaison between our office and their office. So we're always trying to come up with ideas and resources for international students. Some of the things that they provide over there are career advising, helping you get on track. So thinking about what you're going to do after graduation. There are internships. Intern FSU is something that you can look into if you are interested in some of the different resources they have in that regard, particularly on-campus internships. They provide information on that. They will review your resumes, cover letters, any of those documents that you're trying to prepare. If you are trying to find a job, they'll look over that for you and help you give you tips on making your resume stand out. And something that's really great is the mock interviews. You can actually sit down with somebody and they can actually do an interview with you. They'll record you. So you're not only learning about how to respond to these questions, but you're also seeing your own nonverbal cues, gestures, things that might stand out in an interview. So it's a very holistic approach to help you get better at those interviews. I know it's very intimidating. I'm not a big fan of interviews myself, but it's something we all have to do. And career fairs, we do have career fairs. These are being adjusted for the fall semester. Normally there are big, large career fairs with hundreds of people, hundreds of employers, all meeting together at the basketball arena or the College of Engineering, for example. They are still having career fairs, but of course with COVID-19 right now, most of those services will be conducted via Zoom or digitally. The Career Center won't be able to assist you with immigration questions related to CPT or OPT or work authorization. So if you do have questions about that and eligibility for work authorization, you'll want to make sure that you contact us. You'll reach out to your international student advisor. Okay, and so we do have some funding opportunities on our website. The website is at the bottom. This has generally all the information that we have available to you all. One of the common things that international students apply for is the CGE undergraduate out-of-state waivers. The deadline for fall 2020 has already passed, but keep an eye out. The spring 2021 information will be out, I believe, was it October or so, then they can start looking into that. Linkage Institute waivers. So if you're from a particular country, there may be an opportunity for you to get a waiver from an institution in the state of Florida. So that's something that's a resource for you to look at as well. And then we also have the Southern Scholarship Foundation. So a few different resources there. I know funding has become more and more of an issue for international students recently. So those are a few things to look into as well. Most of the information we have related to funding is on our website. I've never had a student really ask me about funding, about a particular funding opportunity that we didn't already have on our list on our website. So we've done a pretty good job at keeping that up to date. Okay, and I know that there was one transfer student in here. So I guess this slide is made for you, the one that answered in the poll that you're a transfer. There are transfer student resources available. So we got that link there as well. And you might be able to find some good opportunities there. COVID-19 related info. This has already been touched on by the others so far. Very important to wear your mask in buildings, classroom, on campus. Be wary of that. There won't be any face-to-face classes held after the Thanksgiving break from November 25th through 29th, and everything will be moved online at that point. So be aware of that. And then Laura Dean had already mentioned this, but so you can stay connected to campus life by utilizing that virtual FSU platform as well. A couple other things that are worth mentioning is the FSU ID card and the getting your bank account set up. If you are quarantining, keep that in mind. You may need to go to that bank, or you may need to go to the FSU card center to get your FSU ID card. The FSU ID card will be used you'll use that to enter buildings around campus. I know our building, in order for you to get in, you need your FSU card. You swipe the front door and then it will allow you access into the building. So that's something to look out for as well. Somebody had asked, where do you get the syllabus? Your professor will provide you with that certainly by the first class. I know that sometimes when you sign up for classes, you're able to get into the Canvas system, and sometimes the syllabus will already be in there even before the class begins. So you can check Canvas But if not, you'll certainly have that by the first day of class. And I believe that's it for me. Yep. Thank you all.
Hi everyone, my name is Angelique Stevens. I am one of the F1 advisors at the Center for Global Engagement. I am originally from France. Kevin, you have to accept my request. You keep denying it. Okay, perfect. I'm one of the F1 advisors here. I'm originally from France, and I work with Jared, who just spoke, and Betty. Today we are going to cover all of the F1 regulations that you need to know about in order to keep your F status. So if you are not currently in the US and not planning on being in the US, most of these rules might be for the spring. If you are going to be in the US in the fall and F status, then these rules will apply to you now. So there are going to be a few conditions in some of my slides. Okay, a short overview of our office and what we do. We do advise students on F1 regulations. That's what we're trained to do. But that's not all we do. We will put in new information related to your record in a federal database that Betty is going to talk about later called CVIS. But we also offer workshops to help educate you on what it means to be an F1 or just being in the United States, living in the United States in general, as well as just offering assistance and advocacy for you. So what we mean is if you don't know where to go on campus, you know, you have an issue or a process to complete and you don't know what to do, you can come to the CGE and we will be happy to help you, help redirect you to the right resource if we are not it. So please don't hesitate to contact us. We're always happy to help you. It is never a bother. This fall semester, things are a little bit different in terms of how we will help you. Most of the time we will help remotely. You can make an appointment with us via email, so we can talk on Zoom, we can talk on the phone. Or if you just have a quick question, something that would take 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, between 2 and 4 p.m., you could go on Zoom and talk to your F1 advisor. We divide our advising range, so the students whom we help, we divide that by the first letter of your last name. So on this slide, you can see who would be your advisor. And if you have questions during this presentation and you wanted to put them in the chat, I'll be happy to answer them. You know, any questions about something I mentioned or something I can help with, I can answer the questions after we're done, after I'm done presenting, but please feel free. Let's see. Okay, so first of all, fall is a little bit different this year. In terms of your class enrollment, if you are a brand new F1 student, so you've never been in F status before, you got your visa and you got here this fall, you have to enroll in at least 12 credit hours, but one of those classes has to be an in-person or hybrid class. So a class that will require in-person meetings, and you have to go to those meetings. So if there are 2 or 3 meetings scheduled, let's say 3, you have to go to all three of those. It is very important that you do that. It's part of the condition for you being here. Of course, you should complete the rest of your assignments online, but the in-person component is very important. If you're a student who used to be in F status at another school in the US, let's say you went to a community college and now you're here with us, a 4-year college, we would consider you to be a CVIS transfer. In that case, 12 credit hours is the minimum you need to be enrolled in, but the breakdown of in-person, hybrid versus online does not apply to you. If you have questions, whether this is you or not you, we can look at your specific case and let you know. So here are the regular rules. The rules for post-COVID, I guess, or at least post-fall. as an undergraduate, you have to be in at least 12 credit hours, and 9 of those have to be face-to-face, in-person classes. That would mean you could have 1 online class in the 12 hours count towards this full-time requirement. In the summer, that is usually your annual vacation break, meaning you can enroll in classes, you can enroll in no classes, but sometimes your scholarship would require that if you're enrolled, you have to be in a certain number of hours. One example that I know of is the Latin American Caribbean Scholarship, LAC. If you enroll in the summer, they want you to be enrolled full-time, not part-time. So your F1 requirement doesn't have to be full-time in the summer, but your scholarship requirement might say you have to be full-time in the summer. So check with the person who helps administer your scholarship before you make a decision on your enrollment. And if you have questions, we can always redirect you to the right person or the right resource. Now, in your last semester, you just have to enroll in however many classes you need to finish the degree. So most fall and springs, it would be 12 credits. You have to be in 12 credits. But if in your last semester, you only need 6 credits to finish, then 6 credits is okay. It's just that not all 6 credits would be online. You would need some of them to be in person. But again, this is rules for usually, not for this fall specifically. So there are a couple of reasons you might not have to comply with the requirements we just went over. We talked about the final term, so you don't have to be in 12 credits if it's your last semester. Another thing is, if you are a brand new F1 student who has never been taught in the US before, you came from abroad, and you just need 1 semester to transition, get used to reading a lot of English, or just the US teaching methods. Jared talked about that, how it's more student-centric versus lecture-based, for instance. If that is the case, we can look into a reduced course load for initial academic difficulty. So if this is something you think is of interest to you, let us know. It would only be a one-time, and typically it's the first semester. And now another reason you could be below 12 credits would be if you have a medical condition that prevents you from being enrolled full-time. So if a medical doctor, a doctor of osteopathy, or a clinical psychologist says,
I need your consent on a few items to get.
Sorry, that was my phone. So if a MD, DO, or clinical psychologist says, it is my medical opinion, this person needs to drop below 12 credits because of this condition, then we can do that. You can only have 12 months of that reduced course load per academic level. So bachelor's is 1 level, master's is another, doctorate is another level. But what's really important is before you drop the class, before you're below 12 credits, you need to talk to us. You need to get authorization from us. This is a theme in your life as an F1, actually. Before you do something, try to talk to us, reach out to us. We are always helpful, and we will guide you on what you need, or maybe you don't need to do anything. But usually it's easier for us to advise you before something happens, before the drop happens, rather than after. In this case, you cannot be under 12 credit hours unless we authorize it. So let's talk about international travel now. Okay, to travel, come to the US, you need a few things. First, you need a valid passport from your home country. That passport should be valid for at least 6 months from the time you're trying to cross the border. It has to be valid at all times when you are in the United States. That is very important. Your passport has to be valid. So let's say your passport expires in a year. And you're going to study for 2 years here. What should you do? You can actually get an extension of your passport you can ask the consulate or embassy of your home country in the US. So if you are from Jamaica, then you would ask the US consulate or embassy, sorry, excuse me, the consulate or embassy of Jamaica in the US how to extend your passport while you're here. The second thing you need to enter the US would be a valid F1 visa. That can only be obtained at a US embassy or consulate abroad. You cannot renew your F1 visa inside the US, but that's okay. The F1 visa, so the sticker in your passport, the F1 visa is the only immigration document that can expire while you're in the United States without getting you in trouble. So what we mean is your visa has to be valid the day you try to come to the US. After that, if you are doing everything correctly, you're enrolled properly in classes, you're not working illegally, if you keep up with your F status, you can stay in the US on an expired F1 visa, but that is the only immigration document that can expire while you're here, the F1 visa. I-94. So the I-94 is a pretty important document. It is usually found online if you came by plane, if you came by car, as in land. If you cross by land, so foot, car, or by sea, for instance, a cruise, it will probably be a white card. But the I-94 is the electronic record of your coming to the US. So what that document does, it says this person on this day came in as an F1. And so it is one of the two documents that say you're here as an F1 legally. It will be issued for duration of status, or should be issued for duration of status. So the I-94 is saying you can stay in the US as long as your status, your F status, is valid. You need to keep it in your records because they go away after a few years. So you should always have your latest I-94 on your phone, in Google Drive, printed, however you want to, but you should have it ideally with you. You'll need it for a few things. When you're getting a driver's license, you'll need it. If you were getting a social security number, you would need it. If you're opening a bank account, you'll need it. And again, because it's part of what shows you're here legally. Before you leave the United States, so we just talked about coming in, what you need to come in. Now, in terms of leaving, before you leave the US, you do need to get a travel signature on your I-20 from our office. That signature is valid for 12 months. But that is one step you have to complete before leaving the United States. Get a travel signature from the CGE. So we'll talk a little bit about on-campus and off-campus employment. Okay, so on-campus employment would be jobs in an FSU office. That is kind of the general scenario, at least. As an F1 student, you don't need any special kind of authorization to work on campus. There are limitations. And I say that there are really limitations with any type of employment in the US as an F1. The reason I say that is because the F status is a student status. It is not built for employment per se. Any kind of employment you'll do will be related to your study or enrich your studies. So if you wanted to work on campus, you could do so for 20 hours a week or less during the fall and spring semester. The reason it's limited to 20 hours is because you have to be enrolled in 12 credit hours. So 20 hours a week would actually be kind of a lot to begin with. Your main focus of being in the US is to be a student, to study. So the on-campus employment will help to make your experience even better, but it's not going to replace that. You're not going to support yourself with your on-campus job. One thing I forgot to mention before related to, I guess, travel coming in the US, don't forget to do your arrival confirmation form. It's in Null Start. It's actually in the same space where you did your I-20 application. So in Null Start, you will go at the bottom, to the in progress application, click on it, scroll down to required arrival confirmation, I think it's called, the little panel, and do the arrival confirmation there. We need that so we can remove your registration hold. It should take you no more than 5 minutes to do that step. So don't forget to do arrival confirmation. Okay, back to employment, on-campus employment. You're limited to 20 hours when classes are in session, fall and spring. If you work for several on-campus employers, so you work for 2 different offices, for instance, your work hours cannot be more than 20 hours per week combined. So all the positions together has to be under 20. This is not an average, this is a maximum. So you could not do 30 hours one week, 10 hours the other, no, 20 max, restricted to 20 hours a week. So after you've been in F1 for at least 1 year, which we count as 1 fall and 1 spring semester, 1 academic year. So after you're in F1 for 1 fall and 1 spring, or 1 spring and 1 fall, you can look at off-campus employment. Most F1 students will look into curricular practical training, CPT. CPT would be, the typical scenario for CPT is you have an internship class, and as a part of that class, you have to go off campus and gain some experience. So we can give you CPT authorization, so you can work off campus as a part of the class. So CPT is for when it's curricular practical training, when it's required for a class, usually an internship. But for CPT, you have to get authorization from our office before you start working. Off-campus employment can be paid or unpaid. If you're receiving credit, for instance, for working off campus, but the employer's not paying you, it is still considered off-campus employment. You need authorization from us. If you do not get authorization in advance, that may have bad consequences on your F status. So basically, when you get an offer for off-campus work, before you accept it, reach out to your CGE advisor. And we can look if this is something that qualifies for CPT or not. But don't move forward, with onboarding and doing anything like that if you get an offer. Okay, so let's say you get an on-campus job or you have paid CPT, so off-campus internship kind of job. Here are a few things you'll need. If you are paid, you will need a social security number. That is so that the tax agency for the US, the IRS, can keep track of how much money you have made, if the appropriate taxes have been taken out, and that's it. That's all the SSN is going to do for you in this instance. You will need a US bank account so you can receive the paycheck. If you work on campus, you're also going to get a Glacier account. It's a special kind of software that helps with taxes as well. So you'll have 2 or 3 of those if you work on campus or have CPT authorization for off-campus work that's paid. But the on-campus authorization, it ends the day you graduate. So the day you finish your studies, your official diploma date would be the last day you can work for an FSU office on campus. And that is very important. The FSU department may not know that rule. They're trained in human resources. They're not trained in F1 regulations. So it's up to you to know the rule. But yeah, diploma date is the last day you can work on campus. And you work after that, you'll need special authorization. So you can talk to us about what the options would be. But before you work off campus anywhere, and work can be very vague, ask us. It's way easier to advise you before something happens, before the opportunity starts, than after. You have more options, I should say. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We love hearing from students anyway, so we're always there for you. Okay, I will pass things on to my partner, Betty, at this time. Thank you.
Hey everyone, this is Betty Jensen, one of the F1 advisors with assignment on last names A through H. It was so exciting in the breakout room to see that half of you, most of you in the breakout room were actually in Tallahassee. So it's so exciting that you are here. Just be safe. Okay, so now we're going to get control, yes, and we're going to talk about SEVAs, what SEVAs is. Do you know what SEVAs is? Some of you have to pay a SEVAs fee. Most of you, well, all of you who have arrived had to pay a SEVAs fee. But what is a SEVAs fee? What does SEVAs stand, what does SEVAs stand for? And I've been asked that question many times, so I figure, why not? I will tell you what the acronym stands for. That stands for the Student and Exchange Visitor Information System, which is the web-based system that the U.S. Department of Homeland Security uses to maintain information regarding international students, scholars, exchange visitors on F, J, and M visas. And it is managed by the Student and Exchange Visitor Program, SEVP, another acronym, within the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, which is Department of Homeland Security. All these names and all these acronyms that you will be getting familiar with as we move on. Okay, so your SEVAs is basically all electronic. What you do is you get your I-20, which is produced by the SEVAs system. Your SEVAs I-20 has your number, has your program beginning date, end date. It shows all about the funding information, and it has a nice area where we put remarks depending on what those remarks might be from time to time. The second page has, again, more information about, if you're employed, if you have CPT, that information goes on the second page. And on the bottom of that second page is where your travel signature will be entered when you're about to leave the country, as Angelique mentioned earlier, okay? So you as an F1 student have some responsibilities to, to fulfill, to maintain your status. And also we as DSOs have our own responsibilities. So what are yours? Okay, you need to remember to update your address within 10 days of this happening. Okay, this might be happening now, you're moving tomorrow or this weekend. So you must go to Student Central, which is my.fsu.edu, which Tanya mentioned earlier, and that is so important to have a current address. Obviously, physical address in Tallahassee. Obviously, the ones of you abroad don't have a Tallahassee address yet, okay? So that's one of your responsibilities, okay? You don't have to necessarily come and tell us that you've changed your address, but we would appreciate an email if you want to, because the myfsu.edu goes through interfaces with our system called Synapses, our case management system, which in turn interfaces with SEVAs. So it's all done automatically, okay? Most of the time anyway. Okay, so you will need to request employment authorization okay? Unless it is on campus, as Angelique previously mentioned, right? If you're going to be studying abroad, they're usually doing research, for example, that may not necessarily happen with undergrads, but it does with grads. You will need to tell us that you're going to be leaving the university and doing this somewhere else, okay? Anytime you step off campus, you're traveling, you need to check with us, okay? If for some reason, next week, you see that, you know, I don't think this would be the case, but, you know, as Angelique mentioned, there are a few times when we can authorize a reduced course load. So, you know, difficulty with English language might be one, which will probably have to happen like this coming week, you know, really soon, okay? You will need to request for extensions, for transferred, employment authorization again, all these different requests and features that we have. And they're all under CGE forms, because in order to request something, we have to have a record of it. So these are all stored under CGE forms. When you go to our website, cge.fsu.edu, it goes all the way, you go to international students, and on the right-hand side, you will see the forms. Please, please, please get familiar with our website. Okay, a lot of information is there, and a lot of times you get the information from our website, and you don't have to wait in the chat room waiting for us to respond during office hours, virtual office hours, a question that was right there for you, easily accessible. Okay, okay. So what are our responsibilities as DSOs? DSO stands for Designated School Official. Again, all these acronyms, okay? As I said, your address is updated on MyFSU, but you know, we have different features that ensure that that has happened. So we constantly make sure that your address in the Student Central matches what's in CVAS, okay? 30 days, no later than that. After beginning of classes, we have to verify full-time enrollment and that you're complying with the only one online class, or all the COVID-19 exceptions that have happened. I know all of that for undergrads, for initial students coming for the first time has gone back and forth from 1 to 12 to 9 to et cetera, and it's finally settled. Okay, we do something very seldom that we hate to do is when students have not complied with the rule of maintaining their F1 status successfully, we have to terminate the F1 record of the student. And you know, a lot of times it's not that the student is doing something on purpose. It's just that they're not in touch with us. They don't attend the workshops that we offered. They're just a little bit disconnected. And for that reason, they fall out of status. And that's when we even hate the most. It's because we have to. We sign an oath that we are going to comply with the immigration rules. So we have to abide by that. Okay, so again, examples of those violations will be The enrollment wasn't 12 hours, that was 100% online, that you went off campus and worked and you didn't come to ask us about CPT and etc. We prefer that you come and ask us if it's just one day that your class requires to go and shadow off campus, that you come and ask us, hey, is this okay or is it not? Okay. We obviously are processors. We process students' requests actually most of the day, you know, so we get to see your pretty faces not very often, but you know, now that we have this new environment, one of the things that I've enjoyed is that you kind of get to concentrate on the student right in front of your computer, and you know, it has some advantages in midst of all this mess. But anyway, we process CPTs, OPTs, transfers. I mean, we're processing all the time. You may not realize how much of processing we do because you're just beginning your program at Florida State University. Okay, if you happen to, maybe not necessarily as undergrad, but you do have a family back at home and you decide you want to bring them to the United States, then we issue I-20s for dependents. So, you know, we update fields of studies every time you change your major, you know, so we are constantly on with the SEVIS records, okay? We shorten the program at the end upon graduation, et cetera, okay? But we don't just do that. We do other things too, okay? Oh, I don't know what happened here. Oh my gosh, I'm going the wrong way, I guess. Don't know. Okay, just. Okay, now what I get to do is something fun. I was using the wrong mouse. Angelique, basically, and Tanya gave you the answers to these questions. And pretty much all of them have already been covered by, in some way, form, or fashion. So this is a fun thing to do. And you have a poll in front of you. Can you all see the poll? Yes? Okay, go ahead and begin the poll. That's okay if you don't get the question correct. This is not a graded quiz. So just go ahead and begin, okay? I don't need to read each of the questions, but go ahead and begin. Hopefully you're seeing the poll. Wow, woo! I knew this was gonna happen. I just knew it. Okay. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Well, no, don't change that. Okay. Okay.
So close.
Yeah, so close, so close. I was so excited about question number 1. Yeah. Okay, well, I guess it was 100% for a few minutes. I was just going to say, see guys, grad students didn't get that, and you guys did. Okay, yeah, keep it that way on number 3, keep it that way, don't change. Yeah, okay, well, take a little more time doing all of that. It will serve a good purpose. Yeah, good. I think this is the first time that it's even beginning. I know it may not end up being that way because we have 25 of you and so far 13, 14 are responding, but so far, I'm not kidding you guys, this is the best result of the polling. Don't you think that, Angelique and Jared?
I think so. I was trying to really insist, like really focus.
Yeah, all my undergrads. You know, I was an F1 advisor for 20, 30 years for only undergrads for a while. So yeah, I'm rooting for you guys. Woo, woo. Yeah.
You'll have to go ahead and share it so they can see how good they are.
Yeah. Well, I have to, I guess, finish. I think they're not quite finished yet. I will. Okay. Well, actually, I think somebody was sharing it for me already. So yes, Laura, my wonderful, amazing Laura shared it already way before me. I was just getting off track, too excited about my undergrads. Anyway, we will go over each of these questions again, and it is okay not to have gotten it right, okay? Remember, Angelique said that the visa is the stamp. Once you enter the States, your visa could expire. A lot of you get a visa only for 1 year, but yet you come for 4. So what happens, you know? Of course, when you leave the country, you cannot return with an expired visa. So the answer here, which of the following documents can expire, is your visa. The visa can expire. Not your I-20. Your I-20 is usually done for 4 years. So before the I-20 expires, you need to come and give us a warning. Of course, we also get that, but it's your responsibility within 30 days of the visa, the I-20 expiring. We'd like to hear that you need to extend that I-20 if that is what you are requesting for whatever reason you didn't finish in time, okay? Your passport has to be valid, and Angelique mentioned that you can't do that while you're in the United States. You cannot renew your visa in the United States, but you could, I mean, outside, you could do it in the United States. The visa is always outside. Get myself confused here. Okay. What must you do with your I-20 before traveling outside of the US? Get a travel signature, okay? Nothing may not get you back in the States. They might let you in, they might not, they might do some paperwork, and no. Go ahead and remember that before you travel, you come over to CGE, or we'll do it virtually. A lot of times I go ahead and put a travel signature when I'm validating your records or what have you. So anyway, what is the maximum number of hours per week that you can work off campus? Look at this, a shout out, because that is actually the only time that we have gotten this straight. So see, I'm getting excited here, I'm not kidding. Yeah, have all my faith lies in undergrads. Look at that. Can you work off campus without authorization? Angelique, Jared, isn't that amazing? 100%. Yes. Okay, so anyway, how long must you be enrolled in classes before you might be eligible for CPT or OPT? Almost there, you know, 2 semesters, fall and spring. Summer doesn't count. Okay, now for the ones of you abroad, you are not quite in F1 status yet because you haven't entered the country, you haven't activated your I-20, your visa. So the first semester for you, for the purposes of applying for CPT in the future, will be spring, when you are actually in Tallahassee. Okay, after moving to a new apartment, How many days do you have to update your address? 10 days, 10 days. We said that, okay? 10 days. Okay, so I'll stop sharing the results and I will close the poll. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to the answers, which again, I gave them to you. Okay, so I'm not going to repeat it again. This kind of took a little bit of a different, see, you guys just got me so excited about having, so the answers are right there. Get a travel signature in your I-20. The 20 hours was the maximum during semesters. Can you work off campus without prior authorization? No, you cannot. Right? You can, working without authorization is a serious violation of F1 regulations. We already know you step off campus, you must receive CPT approval before beginning. Okay, 2 semesters, we talked about that just a little while ago. So basically I'm beginning to repeat myself, but there's fine in repeating on 10 days. Okay, so now I have finished and I'm going to turn it over to amazing Laura.
Thanks, Betty. All right, everyone. So we are at the end of our formal presentation. I know sometimes it's a lot of information and can be long, but still we think that it's valuable information for you all to get settled. I will say there are a few key things I'd like to mention here before we do our breakout room question and answers. The first is we have a virtual CGE escape room. So if any of you want to learn more about the larger FSU areas around campus, the resources that are provided to you, you can do so in a fun way through this escape room that I've created for you all. So if that's of interest to you, you can click on the QR code or the link below.